Have you ever had one of those moments where your entire life splits cleanly in half into before and after? And the dividing line is a bike pedal, a leather jacket, and the word sorry stuck in your throat like broken glass? If you want to hear too hot for YouTube stories, check out my Patreon link in the description below. And now, let's dive in.
I crashed my bike into a motorcycle gang leader on a Tuesday. She started visiting my window every midnight. This is the story of how I went from community college lab assistant to the most dangerous crush of my life. Before we continue, comment below where in the world you are watching from, and please click like and subscribe for more girl love stories. The physics of my mistake were simple. I was flying down Brennan Hill on my ancient 10-speed at 7:15 in the morning, late for my shift at the chemistry lab, not wearing my glasses because I'd left them on my bathroom sink, and the sunrise was directly in my eyes. She was pulling out of the alley next to Marco's diner on a matte black Harley that probably cost more than my annual tuition. I hit her rear fender doing maybe 20 miles an hour. She did not fall. The bike did not fall. I went over my handlebars, performed an unintentional somersault, and landed on my back on the asphalt with my messenger bag somewhere in the gutter, and my dignity in approximately 8 pieces scattered across the intersection. She killed the engine. Silence dropped like a guillotine. Then she was standing over me, blocking out the sun, and I got my first clear look at her face. Sharp jaw, pale skin, black hair cut short on the sides, longer on top, pushed back in a way that suggested she either did not own a mirror or did not care what mirrors thought. She was maybe 25. I was 22. She was wearing a leather jacket with a patch on the shoulder that I could not read from my position on the ground, but that my brain registered as significant in the way prey animals register the shape of teeth. Her eyes were gray, not blue-gray, not green-gray, just gray, like overcast sky, like November, like something that had decided a long time ago not to give anything away for free. She did not ask if I was okay. She looked at her bike, looked at me, looked at the crumpled front wheel of my 10-speed, which was now roughly the shape of a taco shell. Then she said, "You are either the bravest or the stupidest person I have met this month." I tried to say sorry. What came out was a sound like a stepped-on accordion. My ribs felt like someone had replaced them with television static. She tilted her head, studying me the way you study a broken appliance you are trying to decide whether to fix or throw away. I became aware that I was still lying on the ground. I sat up. The world tilted slightly to the left, and then corrected itself. She took one step back, hands in her jacket pockets, waiting. "I am so sorry," I managed. "I didn't see you. The sun was in my eyes. I was going too fast. I will pay for any damage. I have insurance. Well, I don't have insurance for the bike, but I have like $70 in my checking account and I can get more if I skip groceries this week." "Stop talking," she said, not unkindly, just as a statement of fact. I stopped talking. She looked at me for another 3 seconds. Then she walked to her bike, ran her hand along the fender I had hit, and said, "Scratched, not dented. You are lucky." "I know," I said. "I'm really sorry, I did not say you were lucky because of the bike." She swung her leg over the Harley and sat, hands on the grips, eyes on me. "I said you are lucky because if you had hit Tessa's bike, or Raina's, they would have made you walk home with your handlebars through your spokes. I do not do that." "What do you do?" I asked, before my brain caught up with my mouth. The corner of her mouth moved. Not a smile. The ghost of something that used to be a smile before it got tired. "I remember faces," she said. Then she started the engine, and the sound of it wiped out everything else. The morning traffic, the birds, my heartbeat. She pulled away from the curb and disappeared down Brennan without looking back. I sat there on the asphalt for another 30 seconds, holding my ribs, looking at my destroyed bike, replaying the last 2 minutes in my head, and trying to figure out what had just happened. A guy in a Honda honked at me. I dragged my bike to the sidewalk and called my roommate. "Des," I said when she picked up, "I just crashed into a motorcycle gang." "What?" "I crashed my bike into a woman on a Harley and I think she might be in a gang and she said she remembers faces and I think I'm going to die." There was a pause. Then Des said, "Are you concussed? Or is this a bit?" "I'm sitting on the sidewalk on Brennan Hill and my bike looks like modern art and my ribs feel like I got hit by a car, which I kind of did. Except it was a motorcycle, and she had a patch on her jacket." "Des, she had a patch." "Okay," Des said, in the voice she used when she was talking me down from lab exam panic attacks. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Then walk to the diner and get coffee and I will come get you. Do not talk to any more motorcycles." I hung up and limped the 6 blocks to Marco's diner, dragging my taco shell bike behind me. My ribs hurt. My hands were scraped. My jeans had a hole in the knee that I was pretty sure had not been there this morning. I felt like an idiot. I also felt like I had just survived something, though I was not sure what. Marco himself was working the counter. He looked at me, looked at my bike, and said, "Brennan Hill? How did you know?" "I have owned this diner for 40 years. I have seen that hill eat 12 bikes, 3 skateboards, and 1 motorized scooter. You want ice?" "I want coffee and to stop making terrible decisions before 8 in the morning." He poured me coffee. I sat in the booth by the window and pressed my forehead to the cool glass and tried not to think about gray eyes and the way her voice had sounded when she said, "I remember faces." It sounded like a promise. It also sounded like a threat. I was not sure which one I was supposed to be more afraid of. Des showed up 20 minutes later, took one look at me and said, "You look like you went 10 rounds with the pavement." "The pavement won." "And the motorcycle gang?" I think she let me live because I was pathetic enough to be entertaining. Des sat down across from me and stole my coffee. She was pre-med, whip smart, and had exactly 0 patience for my tendency to catastrophize minor disasters into life-altering trauma. She was also my best friend, which meant she had spent the last 4 years watching me turn every awkward interaction into a 3-act internal drama. "Did you get her name?" she asked. "No." "Did you get her number?" "Des. She told me that other people in her gang would have put my handlebars through my spokes. I did not ask for her number. I asked the universe not to let me die on Brennan Hill at 7 in the morning." "So you have a crush on her," Des said. What?" "No. I crashed into her. She was terrifying. She had gray eyes like a storm and a jawline that could cut glass, and she looked at me like I was a bug. She was deciding whether to step on. That is not a crush. That is a near-death experience." "Uh-huh," Des said. "And how long did you spend thinking about her jawline?" I threw a sugar packet at her. She caught it. "I am observant," I said. "It is a skill." "You are gay and disaster-prone," Des said. "Also a skill." She drove me home. I called in late to the lab, took 3 ibuprofen, and spent the rest of the day trying to finish my organic chemistry problem sets and absolutely not thinking about the woman on the Harley. I failed at the problem sets. I also failed at the not thinking. By 10 that night, I had convinced myself I would never see her again. Brennan Hill was a busy street. She probably crashed into people every week. I was not special. I was just another idiot on a bike who did not know how to brake properly. At midnight, someone tapped on my bedroom window. I was in bed, half asleep, scrolling through my phone with the sound off because Des was already asleep in the next room. The tap was soft enough that I almost missed it. Then it came again. 3 knocks, deliberate, spaced exactly 2 seconds apart. My room was on the 2nd floor. There was no balcony. There was no fire escape on this side of the building. I sat up, hard in my throat, and looked at the window. She was crouched on the ledge outside, one hand on the frame, balanced like she had done this 1,000 times before. The motorcycle gang leader. The woman I had crashed into. She was still wearing the leather jacket. She looked at me through the glass and raised one finger to her lips. Quiet. I did not scream. I am not sure why. Maybe because she did not look threatening, crouched there in the dark with the streetlight behind her turning her hair into a silver halo. Maybe because my brain was moving too slowly to process fear. Maybe because some absolutely unhinged part of me had been waiting for this. I got out of bed, crossed the room, opened the window. The night air hit me, cool and sharp, carrying the smell of asphalt and exhaust and something else, leather and engine oil and her. She did not climb in. She stayed on the ledge, eye level with me now, close enough that I could see the small scar through her left eyebrow and the way her pupils dilated slightly when I leaned closer. "You climbed to my window," I said. "Yes? Why?" "Because you crashed into me this morning, and I told you I remember faces, and I wanted to see if you would be stupid enough to open the window when a stranger knocked on it at midnight." "And? You are." She said it like she was filing the information away for later. "What is your name?" "Harper," I said. "Harper Finch?" "Sloane," she said. She did not offer a last name. "Do you know who I am?" "You are a woman who rides a Harley and has friends named Tessa and Raina, who are apparently more violent than you, which is saying something, because you are currently crouched on my window ledge like some kind of deranged owl." The corner of her mouth did the thing again. Almost a smile. "I run the Northside," she said. I blinked. The Northside was not a gang in the traditional sense. It was more like a collective, a group of women who rode motorcycles and fixed bikes, and allegedly controlled half the underground street racing scene in the city. I had heard about them the way you hear about urban legends. I had never met anyone who actually claimed to be part of them. "You are in a motorcycle gang," I said slowly. "I am the leader of a motorcycle club," Sloane corrected. "We prefer club. Gang sounds like we deal drugs. We do not deal drugs. We race bikes, we fix engines, and we make sure the East Side does not try to run their gambling operations into our territory. Occasionally, we redistribute car parts that rich people do not need anymore. That is it. You steal car parts. We redistribute them. That is still stealing." "Your moral compass is noted," she said. "Are you going to report me to the police, Harper Finch?" She said my name like she was testing the weight of it. I became suddenly, acutely aware that I was standing in my pajamas, which were an old Radiohead t-shirt and flannel shorts, having a conversation with a woman who had just admitted to running a criminal operation, and that instead of being afraid, I was trying very hard not to notice the way the streetlight caught the angle of her collarbone where her jacket had shifted open. "No," I said. "Why not?" "Because you did not call the cops when I crashed into you this morning. I figure we are even." "We are not even," Sloane said. "You owe me a favor." "I thought you said the bike was fine." "The bike is fine. The favor is not about the bike." She shifted her weight on the ledge, settling into a crouch that looked more comfortable than it had any right to be. "I need something from you." "What could you possibly need from me? I work in a chemistry lab. I make $12 an hour. I eat ramen 4 nights a week. My most valuable possession is a library card." "You work in a chemistry lab," Sloane repeated. "So you have access to equipment. Bunsen burners, beakers, scales, that sort of thing." "Oh my God," I said. "You want me to help you make drugs. You said you do not make drugs. You literally just said that." "We do not make drugs," Sloane said, patient in a way that suggested she had this conversation before. "Tessa's little sister is in high school. Science fair project. She needs access to a real lab for her experiment because the school won't let her use their equipment after she almost set the chemistry classroom on fire last year. I told her I would find someone who could help. Then, you crashed into me. Coincidence. I stared at her. You climbed to my window at midnight to ask me to help a teenager with a science fair project. Yes. You could have asked me this morning. This morning you looked like you were going to pass out. Also, I did not have your address yet. I had to follow you home after your shift. You followed me home? I told you, Sloane said. I remember faces. There were approximately 40 things wrong with this situation. I could feel them lining up in my brain, each one more alarming than the last. She had followed me. She had climbed to my window. She ran a criminal organization and was asking me to help with a science fair project, as if those two facts were in any way compatible. She was looking at me with those gray eyes like she knew exactly how insane this was, and was waiting to see if I would be smart enough to say no. When does she need the lab? I asked. Sloane smiled. A real one this time, sharp and quick, like a knife flash in the dark. Tomorrow night, after hours, I will pick you up at 11. I have not said yes yet. You just did. She pushed off the ledge, dropped the 6 feet to the ground below, and landed in a crouch that should have broken her ankles but did not. She looked up at me, hands in her pockets, backlit by the street lamp. Do not tell anyone about this, Harper. The Northside does not like people who talk. Then she walked to the mouth of the alley, swung onto a bike I had not noticed was parked there, and vanished into the dark with the sound of an engine that rattled my window in its frame. I stood there for a full minute, gripping the windowsill, trying to process what had just happened. Then I closed the window, locked it, crawled back into bed, and stared at the ceiling until my alarm went off at 6. Des found me at breakfast the next morning and immediately said, "You look haunted." "I am fine." "You have that look you get when you are lying to yourself about something." "I am not lying to myself." "You are making eye contact with your cereal instead of with me." "What happened?" I opened my mouth to say nothing and then remembered the way Sloane had said, "The Northside does not like people who talk," and decided that maybe Des did not need to know everything. "I had a weird dream," I said instead. "About what?" "Motorcycles," I said, which was not technically a lie. Des looked at me for a long moment and then shrugged and went back to her toast. I finished my cereal, grabbed my bag, and headed to campus. I had 3 lectures and a 4-hour lab shift. I spent all of them thinking about gray eyes and whether or not I had just agreed to aid and abet a felony for a woman I had known for less than 24 hours. At 10:30 that night, I told Des I was going to the library to finish a paper. She believed me because I went to the library at weird hours all the time. I walked 3 blocks, stood under the broken streetlight on Maple and 5th, and waited. Sloane pulled up at 11 exactly. She was on the same matte black Harley, and this time I could see the patch on her shoulder clearly. A silver gear with a crescent moon through the center. The Northside insignia. She handed me a helmet without a word. I took it, climbed on behind her. She did not tell me to hold on. I did anyway. Arms around her waist, fingers locked over her stomach, feeling the leather of her jacket under my palms and the warmth of her through it and the way she tensed for half a second before the engine roared and we were moving. I had never been on a motorcycle before. It was louder and faster and more terrifying than I had imagined. It was also, and I hated myself a little for thinking this, the most awake I had felt in months. The wind screamed past my ears. The city blurred into streaks of light and shadow. Sloane leaned into the turns and I leaned with her, trusting her in a way that made no sense, and all the sense in the world, and by the time we pulled up outside the chemistry building, I was breathless and buzzing and possibly in serious trouble. She killed the engine. I climbed off. My legs felt like jelly. She stayed on the bike, hands on the grips, watching me. "You good?" she asked. "I think so." "You are shaking." I have never been on a motorcycle before. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe. "You let me drive you across the city and you have never been on a bike before?" "You did not ask if I had been on a bike before. You handed me a helmet. I made an assumption." She stared at me. Then she laughed, short and low and entirely unexpected. It changed her whole face, made her look younger, less sharp. "You are going to get yourself killed, Harper Finch." "Probably," I said, "but not tonight." I led us into the building with my key card. The lab was on the 3rd floor, tucked at the end of a hallway that smelled like formaldehyde and old coffee. I flipped on the lights. Sloane came in behind me, moving through the space like she was cataloging exits and weapons and whether or not the windows opened. A girl followed her. 15, maybe 16, short dark hair, wearing a hoodie with an anime character I did not recognize. She looked at the lab the way some people look at cathedrals. "This is Maya," Sloane said. "Maya, this is Harper. She is going to help you not blow anything up." "I was not going to blow anything up," Maya said. "I was going to create a controlled exothermic reaction to demonstrate energy transfer in a closed system." "That is what blowing things up means," I said. "What is your project?" She showed me. It was good. Ambitious. The kind of thing that would win prizes if she could pull it off. I helped her set up the equipment, walked her through the safety protocols, and stood back while she ran the experiment. Sloane watched from the doorway, arms crossed, eyes on me more than on Maya. I tried to ignore her. Failed. Every time I glanced up, she was looking at me with an expression I could not read, something between curiosity and assessment, like I was the equation she was trying to solve. The experiment worked. Maya got her data. I helped her clean up and pack everything away. Sloane walked her out, came back alone, and leaned against the lab bench next to me. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome." "I mean it. Maya is smart. She deserves a chance to prove it. The school would not give her one. You did." "It was just a lab," I said. "It was not just a lab." She was close enough now that I could smell her, leather and something sharp and clean, maybe soap, maybe just her. "You did not have to say yes. You did not have to help. You did not owe me anything. You said I owed you a favor. I lied." She said it like a confession. "I wanted to see if you would do it anyway." I turned to look at her. She was already looking at me. The lab lights were harsh and fluorescent and deeply unflattering, but somehow they just made her more. The sharp lines of her face, the gray of her eyes, the way she was standing too close and not moving back. "Why?" I asked. "Because you are interesting," Sloane said. "You crashed into me doing 20 miles an hour on a bike that should have been retired in 2008, and instead of crying or yelling or threatening to sue, you apologized 6 times and offered me $70. Then you opened your window when I knocked on it at midnight, even though that is objectively insane. Then you got on my bike without asking where we were going. You are either the bravest or the stupidest person I have met this month, and I have not decided which yet. You said that yesterday. I am still deciding." We stood there, 6 inches apart, in a chemistry lab that smelled like sulfur and cleaning solution, and I realized with a clarity that felt like falling that I was in serious, serious trouble. Not because Sloane ran a motorcycle club, or because she had followed me home, or because she had just admitted to lying to get me to help her. Because she was looking at me like I mattered, like I was something worth figuring out, and I had no idea what to do with that. "I should go," I said. "I will take you home." "You do not have to. I brought you here. I will take you back. That is how this works." I did not argue. We locked up the lab, walked back to her bike, and rode through the city in silence. She dropped me off 2 blocks from my apartment, far enough away that Des would not see if she happened to look out the window. I handed her the helmet. She took it. Our fingers brushed. Neither of us moved. "Will I see you again?" I asked, before I could stop myself. "Do you want to?" "I do not know yet." Sloane smiled. That sharp, quick flash again. "Liar," she said. Then she put on the helmet, kicked the bike to life, and disappeared down the street. I walked home in a daze, let myself into the apartment, brushed my teeth, got into bed, stared at the ceiling, and tried to figure out when, exactly, my life had stopped making sense. At midnight, someone knocked on my window. I got up, opened it. Sloane was on the ledge again. Same crouch, same jacket, same unreadable expression. "You came back," I said. "I did." "Why?" "Because I have not decided yet if you are brave or stupid, and I cannot leave a question unanswered." She leaned forward slightly, elbows on her knees, eyes on mine. "So which is it, Harper? Brave or stupid?" "I think," I said slowly, "that those might be the same thing." "Then you are in more trouble than I thought." She pushed off the ledge, landed, looked up at me. "Same time tomorrow?" "You are going to keep coming back?" "Until I figure you out," Sloane said, "or until you tell me to stop. Whichever comes first." She left. I closed the window, went back to bed, did not sleep. The next night, she came back. And the night after that. And the night after that. It became a routine, that midnight knock. Some nights she stayed for 5 minutes. Some nights she stayed for an hour. We talked about nothing important, books and music, and the physics of motorcycle engines and whether or not it was possible to make a decent cup of coffee at 3 in the morning. I learned that she had been riding since she was 17, that she had started the Northside because the East Side clubs would not let women join, that she read science fiction and poetry, and had opinions about both that she delivered like declarations of war. She learned that I was pre-law before I switched to chemistry, that I had a brother I had not spoken to in 2 years, that I thought about quitting school at least once a week, and never actually did. We did not talk about the fact that she kept coming back. We did not talk about the fact that I kept opening the window. By the end of the first week, Des noticed. "You are sleeping weird," she said over breakfast. "I am sleeping fine. You look like you are not sleeping at all. Also, you keep smiling at your phone." "I do not smile at my phone." "You are doing it right now." I put my phone face down on the table. "I am fine." "You have been fine a lot lately. I am starting to think fine means something I do not know about." She was right, of course. I was not fine. I was coming apart at the seams in slow motion, unraveling one midnight conversation at a time, and I had no idea how to stop it, or if I even wanted to. On the 8th night, Sloane brought coffee. 2 cups, still hot, balanced in a carrier. She handed one through the window. I took it. "You did not have to do this," I said. "I know." She settled onto the ledge, legs dangling into my room now instead of crouched outside. "Progress. Maybe. But you mentioned you like coffee at weird hours? And I had some, so." I sipped it. It was good. Better than good. "Where did you get this?" "There is a place on the East Side that stays open all night. They know me." "Because you redistribute their car parts?" "Because I fixed their espresso machine for free after it broke, and the repair guy wanted $800. They give me coffee. I do not ask questions. Everyone wins." I sat on the floor under the window, back against the wall, looking up at her. "Do you do that a lot? Fix things for people?" "When I can." She looked at me over the rim of her cup, steam curling between us. "Is that surprising?" "A little. You run a criminal organization." "We are not criminals. We are entrepreneurs with flexible ethical guidelines." That is the same thing. It is absolutely not the same thing. But she was smiling when she said it, and I was smiling back. And somewhere in the space between the joke and the truth, we had crossed a line I had not known we were approaching. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "You can ask." I might not answer. "Why do you keep coming back here?" The smile faded. She set down her coffee on the windowsill, carefully, like she was buying time. "You really want to know?" "Yes." "Because you are the first person in a very long time who has looked at me like I am just a person," Sloane said quietly. "Not the leader of the Northside. Not someone to be afraid of or impressed by or used for connections. Just Sloane. And I did not realize how much I missed that until you opened the window the first time and did not ask me for anything except why I was there." I did not know what to say to that. Every possible response felt too big or too small or too honest. So I did what I always did when words failed. I deflected. "You are definitely not just a person. You climb buildings. So do window washers. Window washers use harnesses. Harnesses are for people who do not trust their own grip. That is insane. You opened the window. I am starting to think that was a mistake." "Liar," Sloane said again, soft this time, and the way she said it made my chest hurt. We finished our coffee in silence. She left at 1. I did not sleep until 3. The next night, she did not come. I waited until 12:30, then 1, then 2. The window stayed dark. No knock. No engine sound from the street below. I told myself it was fine. She did not owe me anything. We were not anything. We were just two people who talked at midnight sometimes. That was all. By 3, I was pacing my room like a caged animal. By 4, I had convinced myself she was dead in a ditch somewhere. By 5, I had decided I was being ridiculous and needed to sleep. At 6, Des found me making coffee and looking like I had been awake for a month. "Okay," she said. "I am staging an intervention." "What is going on?" "Nothing. You look like a ghost. You have been weird for 2 weeks. You keep staring at the window like you are waiting for something. Harper, talk to me." I wanted to. I wanted to tell her everything. But I could hear Sloane's voice in my head. The Northside does not like people who talk, and I could not risk it. Not for me. For her. "I met someone," I said instead. Des lit up like a spotlight. "You met someone. Who? When? Why did you not tell me?" "It is complicated." "Complicated how?" "Complicated in a way that I cannot explain right now, but I promise I will when I can, okay? Just trust me." Des looked at me for a long time. Then she sighed and poured herself coffee. "Fine. But when this blows up in your face, and it will, because you have a gift for picking complicated, I am going to say, 'I told you so.'" Noted. She did not come back that night either. Or the night after. By the 3rd night, I had stopped waiting and started grieving something I had never actually had. By the 4th night, I was angry. By the 5th night, I was numb. On the 6th night, I was in the lab late, running samples for a project that was due Monday, and someone knocked on the lab door. I looked up. Sloane was standing in the hallway, hands in her jacket pockets, looking worse than I had ever seen her. Tired. Pale. There was a bruise spreading purple across her left cheekbone and a cut through her bottom lip that had scabbed over badly. I crossed the lab in 4 steps and opened the door. "What happened? Can I come in?" I pulled her inside, locked the door behind her, and pointed at a stool. She sat. I grabbed the first aid kit from the supply cabinet and started cleaning the cut on her lip without asking. She let me. Did not flinch when the antiseptic stung. Just watched me with those gray eyes like she was memorizing my face. "The East Side tried to move into our territory," she said finally. "We pushed back. It got messy." "How messy?" "2 of their bikes are in impound. One of mine is in Tessa's garage getting a new fender." I have this. She gestured at her face. And a concussion I am pretending I do not have because if I admit it, Raina will not let me ride for a week. You should not be riding with a concussion. Probably not. Sloane. I needed to see you, she said, and the rawness in her voice stopped me cold. I have been trying to stay away because this is a bad idea, you and me, and I know that. But I got hit, and all I could think about was your window and whether or not you were still waiting, and I needed to know. I waited, I said quietly. Every night. I waited. Her hand came up, slow, and cupped my jaw. Her palm was warm. Her thumb brushed my cheekbone. You should not have, she said. You should have closed the window and forgotten about me. Too late. Harper. I know it is a bad idea, I said. I know you are dangerous and I am in over my head and this cannot possibly end well. I know all of that. I do not care. You should care. Make me. For a second I thought she was going to. Thought she was going to pull back and leave, and never knock on my window again. But then her hand tightened on my jaw and she leaned in and kissed me. Soft and careful and tasting like copper and coffee and something that felt like relief. I kissed her back. Forgot about the lab and the samples and the fact that I was supposed to be smart enough not to do this. Forgot everything except the feeling of her mouth on mine and the way her free hand had come up to tangle in my hair, and the sound she made when I bit her bottom lip gently and she pulled me closer. We broke apart. She rested her forehead against mine, breathing hard. This is a terrible idea, she said. I know. I am going to ruin your life. You already have. She laughed, breathless and broken. What am I supposed to do with you? I have some ideas, I said, and kissed her again. We stayed in that lab until 3 a.m, kissing, talking, not talking. She told me about the fight with the East Side, how they had tried to sabotage one of the Northside's races and things had escalated. I told her about the organic chemistry exam I was failing, and how I had been too distracted thinking about her to study properly. She laughed at that, soft and surprised, like she could not believe she was the kind of person someone got distracted over. When she finally left, she did not use the door. She climbed out the third-floor window onto the fire escape and disappeared into the dark like she had never been there at all. I locked up the lab, walked home in the pre-dawn quiet, and fell into bed still tasting copper. Des cornered me the next morning. You are glowing. I am not glowing. You are absolutely glowing. You look like you did not sleep, and also like you do not care that you did not sleep. What happened? I wanted to tell her. Wanted to explain about Sloane and the midnight visits, and the way everything felt different now. Like the world had tilted slightly off its axis and I was learning to walk on the new angle. But I could still hear Sloane's voice in my head. The Northside does not like people who talk. So I shrugged and said, just a good night. Des gave me a look that said she did not believe me but was choosing not to push. Yet, Sloane came back to my window that night, and the next, and the next. The visits changed after the kiss. There was less talking, more touching. She would climb onto the ledge and I would lean out and we would spend hours like that. Her outside, me inside. The window frame between us like a line we kept crossing without ever actually crossing. She would cup my face and kiss me until I forgot how to breathe. I would tangle my hands in her jacket and pull her closer, as close as physics would allow with glass and gravity in the way. We did not talk about what we were doing, did not label it, did not plan past the next midnight. It felt safer that way. Like if we did not name it, we could not ruin it. 3 weeks in, she showed up looking furious. I opened the window and she did not kiss me. Just sat on the ledge, jaw tight, staring at the street below. What happened? I asked. Raina found out about you. My stomach dropped. How? She followed me, Saw me climbing your building. Asked who you were. Sloane finally looked at me, and there was something raw in her expression. I told her you were no one, just some girl I was seeing. She did not believe me. Why not? Because I do not see people, Harper. I do not date. I do not do this. She gestured between us, sharp and frustrated. The Northside is my life. It is all I have had for 5 years. And now Raina is asking questions and Tessa is making comments, and I do not have good answers because I do not know what this is. The words landed like stones. I do not know what this is. Okay, I said quietly. What do you want it to be? I do not know. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. She stood up on the ledge, balanced and furious and beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. I should not have come back after the first night. I should not have kept coming back. This was supposed to be simple. You crashed into me. I scared you. We went our separate ways. That was how it was supposed to go. But it did not. No, it did not. She looked at me, and for the first time since I had met her, she looked lost. I do not know how to do this, Harper. I do not know how to be the person the Northside needs, and also be the person who shows up at your window every night because I cannot stop thinking about you. Maybe you do not have to choose. You do not understand. The Northside is not a hobby. It is not something I do on weekends. It is who I am. And if I am distracted, if I am compromised, people notice. The East Side notices. And they will use it. Use what? You. She said it like a confession, like an apology. If they find out about you, they will use you to get to me. That is how this works. That is how it has always worked. I understood then. Not just what she was saying, but what she was not saying. She was scared. Sloane, who climbed buildings and ran a motorcycle club and faced down territorial fights without flinching, was scared of what I represented. Scared of wanting something she could lose. So what are you saying? I asked. That we stop? That you stop coming here? I am saying I do not know. She stepped off the ledge, dropped to the ground, looked up at me. I am saying I need to think. She left. Did not kiss me goodbye. Did not say when or if she would be back. Just walked away. And I watched her go. And the window felt colder than it ever had before. She did not come back the next night. Or the night after. A week passed. Then 2. I stopped waiting at midnight. Stopped checking the window every 5 minutes. Stopped expecting anything. Des noticed. Of course she noticed. Your complicated person ghosted you, she said one night over takeout. I do not want to talk about it. Too bad. You have been moping for 2 weeks. I am staging another intervention. Des. No. Listen. I do not know who this person is, or why you will not tell me about them, but they are clearly important to you, and if they just disappeared without explanation, then they are also clearly an idiot. It is more complicated than that. It is always more complicated than that. But here's the thing, Harper. You deserve someone who shows up. Someone who does not make you wait by the window like some kind of tragic figure in a Victorian novel. You deserve better than complicated. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing did not make it hurt less. On the 17th night, I was walking home from the lab at 11 when I saw her. She was leaning against the wall outside my building, hands in her jacket pockets, waiting. My heart tried to climb out of my throat. I stopped 3 feet away, arms crossed, trying to look less wrecked than I felt. Harper, she said. Sloane. I owe you an explanation. You owe me more than that. I know. She pushed off the wall, took a step closer. She looked different. Tired. Like she had not been sleeping either. I have been trying to figure out how to do this. How to keep you safe and also keep seeing you. I talked to Raina. Told her about you. Really told her. She said I was being an idiot. She sounds smart. She is. She also said that if I walked away from you because I was scared, I would regret it for the rest of my life, and she was not going to watch me be that stupid. Sloane took another step. We were close enough now that I could see the shadows under her eyes. So I am not walking away. But I need you to understand what you are getting into. The Northside is dangerous. The people we deal with are dangerous. And if you are with me, if this is real, then you are part of that world, whether you want to be or not. I know. Do you? Because this is not some romantic fantasy, Harper. This is real. There are risks. Real risks. I crashed into you on a bike going 20 miles an hour, and you climbed to my second-story window like a deranged cat burglar. I think I have a pretty good sense of the risk level. The corner of her mouth twitched, almost a smile. I am trying to be serious. So am I. Sloane, I have spent the last 2 weeks feeling like I was missing a limb. I do not care about the risks. I care about you. So if you are asking me if I am in, the answer is yes. I have been in since you knocked on my window the first time. She closed the distance between us, kissed me right there on the sidewalk, under the streetlight, where anyone could see. It felt like a declaration, like a choice she was making out loud. When she pulled back, she was smiling. The real one. The one that changed her whole face. Okay, she said. Then we do this. But we do it right. I am not hiding you. I am not pretending you do not exist. If you are in, you are in. That means meeting the Northside. Meeting Raina and Tessa and everyone else. It means being seen with me. It means stepping into my world. When? Saturday. We have a race. I want you there. I have never been to a street race. I know. I will teach you. She took my hand, laced our fingers together. It was the first time we had held hands. It felt monumental. Go pack a bag. You are staying at my place tonight. I have class in the morning. Skip it. Sloane. Harper. Pack a bag. I packed a bag. Her place was not what I expected. I had pictured something industrial, maybe a garage or a warehouse. Instead, she lived in a third-floor walk-up above a bookstore, and her apartment was small and clean and full of books. Poetry, science fiction, classics. They lined every wall, double-stacked on shelves that looked like she had built them herself. You read, I said. I do a lot of things. She dropped her keys on the counter, shrugged off her jacket. Underneath, she was wearing a black t-shirt that fit her in a way that made it hard to think. You sound surprised. I am. I thought motorcycle gang leaders spent all their time, I do not know, revving engines and looking intimidating. I do that too. I am multifaceted. She walked to the kitchen, started making coffee. You can look around. I do not have anything to hide from you. I looked around. There was a workbench in the corner covered in motorcycle parts and tools. A punching bag hanging near the window. A mattress on the floor with blankets that looked military-grade and functional. No couch. No TV. Nothing soft except the books. You live like a monk, I said. I live like someone who does not spend a lot of time at home. She handed me coffee, gestured to the mattress. We sat. This is the first time I have brought anyone here. Ever? Ever. She looked at me over her cup. I meant what I said earlier. I am not hiding you. This is me not hiding. We talked until dawn. About everything. Her childhood, growing up in the system, bouncing between foster homes until she aged out at 18. How she had met Tessa at a bike shop. How they had started racing together. How the Northside had grown from 2 women with rebuilt Harleys into something bigger. How Raina had joined after her ex had tried to kill her, and the Northside had made sure he could not try again. How the club was a family for people who did not have families. How it was the first thing that had ever felt like home. I told her about my parents, how they had cut me off when I came out at 19, how Des had been the one to help me move out, to find this apartment, to survive, how chemistry was the only thing that made sense when everything else felt like chaos, how I had been coasting through life for 2 years, just existing, until I crashed into her and everything woke up. "You are not coasting anymore," Sloane said. "No, I am not." She kissed me, slow and deliberate and so different from every other time, because we were not separated by a window or stolen moments or fear. This was real, chosen. We fell back onto the mattress, her weight on top of me, her hands in my hair, her mouth on my neck, and I felt the world narrow to just this, just her, just us. We did not sleep. We just held each other as the sun came up, and it felt like the beginning of something I did not have words for yet. Saturday came. Sloane picked me up at 10 on her Harley, and we rode to the industrial district on the south side. The race was in an abandoned warehouse, and when we pulled up, there were already 30 bikes there, maybe more. Women everywhere, some in leather, some in denim, all of them with that same look, sharp and certain and ready for anything. Sloane killed the engine. We climbed off. Every head turned. I felt the weight of 30 pairs of eyes assessing me, cataloging me, deciding whether I was a threat or a liability or something else entirely. A woman with dark skin and silver rings on every finger walked up. She was tall, taller than Sloane, with a shaved head and a scar running from her temple to her jaw. "This her?" she asked. "This is Harper," Sloane said. "Harper, this is Rena." Rena looked at me for a long moment. Then she grinned. "The one who crashed into Sloane on a 10-speed? That was me. I like her," Rena said. "She has nerve. Or no sense. Hard to tell which." "Both," Sloane said. "Definitely both." Another woman appeared. Shorter, curvy, with red hair in a braid and grease stains on her hands. "So this is why you have been useless for 3 weeks," she said to Sloane. "Tessa, meet Harper." "Harper. Tessa." Tessa looked me up and down. "She is cute. Does she know anything about bikes?" "I know that they are fast and loud and that Sloane is slightly unhinged for riding one with a concussion," I said. Tessa laughed. "Okay. I like her too. She can stay." The race was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. I stood with Rena and Tessa and watched Sloane line up with 9 other riders. The course was a loop through the warehouse district, 4 miles of tight turns and open straights. Illegal as hell. Thrilling in a way that made my pulse spike. Sloane looked back at me once before the start. Our eyes met. She smiled. Then the race began, and she was gone, swallowed by the roar of engines and the blur of speed. She won. Of course she won. When she came back, she was grinning, hair wild, adrenaline making her eyes bright. She pulled off her helmet, walked straight to me, and kissed me in front of everyone. Acclaiming. A statement. "This is mine." The Northside cheered. Someone whistled. Rena said something that made Tessa laugh, and I stood there, kissing Sloane in a warehouse full of women who could probably kill me 6 different ways, and I felt more at home than I had in years. We went back to her apartment that night. She pulled me into bed and held me like I was something precious, and I realized that I had stopped being afraid. Of her world. Of the risk. Of what this meant. "I love you," I said. I had not planned to say it. It just came out. 3 words that felt too big and too true to keep inside anymore. She went still. Pulled back just enough to look at me. "Say that again." "I love you." "You should not. You barely know me." "I know enough." "Harper, I know you climb buildings and read poetry and fix espresso machines for free. I know you started a family for people who did not have one. I know you show up at my window every night because you cannot stay away. I know you are terrified of this, of us, and you are doing it anyway. That is enough. She kissed me, hard and desperate and shaking. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. I love you too, she said. I did not think I could. I did not think I was built for it. But I do. I love you. We stayed awake all night. Again, talking and touching and figuring out what this looked like, what we looked like. She told me about the plans for the Northside, how they were expanding, opening a garage on the north side where they could fix bikes and teach women how to ride, how she wanted to make it a real business, something legitimate, how she was tired of running from the law. I told her about my plans to apply to grad school, maybe get a PhD in chemical engineering, how I wanted to do research, maybe work in green energy, how I had been too scared to apply because I did not think I was smart enough, but maybe I was. You are, Sloane said. You are brilliant. You are biased. I am honest. We fell asleep tangled together as the sun came up, and I woke up to her watching me with an expression I could not name. Soft, tender, terrified in a good way. What? I asked. I am trying to memorize this, she said. You, here, in case I am dreaming. You are not dreaming. Good. She kissed my forehead. Because I am not letting you go. We stayed in bed until noon. Then she made me breakfast. Terrible coffee and toast that was burned on one side, and we ate it on the mattress and laughed about nothing and everything. Des called while I was brushing my teeth. Where are you? I am at a friend's place. The complicated friend? Yes. Okay. I am going to need details. Full details. You have been MIA for 36 hours. I will tell you everything, I promise. Just not right now. Harper, are you safe? I am. I looked at Sloane through the bathroom door. She was pulling on her jacket, getting ready to take me home. I am really safe, Des. I know it does not make sense. But I am. Okay. I trust you. But I am holding you to that promise. Full details. I told her 2 weeks later. Sat her down in our living room and explained everything. The crash. The window visits. Sloane. The Northside. All of it. She listened without interrupting, and when I was done, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You are in love with a motorcycle gang leader. Technically a motorcycle club leader. Harper. Yes, I am in love with a motorcycle club leader. And she loves you back? She does. Des nodded slowly. Okay. Then I am happy for you. Also terrified. But mostly happy. That is fair. She met Sloane a week later. Sloane showed up at the apartment with flowers, which was so unexpected that Des laughed, and they talked for 2 hours about medicine and bikes and how to rebuild a carburetor. By the end of the night, Des pulled me aside and said, I like her. She is intense and kind of scary, but she looks at you like you are the only person in the room. Keep her. I plan to. The weeks after that conversation turned into months, and the months turned into something I had stopped thinking was possible for me. A relationship. A real one. Sloane integrated me into the Northside slowly, carefully. I met the crew one by one. Tessa, who turned out to be a mechanical genius. Raina, who was terrifying and hilarious in equal measure, and who appointed herself my unofficial bodyguard. Maya, who had won her science fair and was now a junior mechanic at the garage. There were others. Jade, who handled the club's finances. Carmen, who rode a vintage Indian. Lena, who was quiet and watchful and had saved Sloane's life twice. They accepted me because Sloane loved me. That was the rule. If you were Sloane's, you were theirs. I started spending weekends at the garage. I reorganized their chemical storage. I helped Jade set up bookkeeping. I tutored Maya in chemistry and watched her fall in love with science the way I had. Sloane watched me integrate into her world with something like wonder. "You fit," she said one night. "I did not think you would." "Did you want me not to fit?" "Part of me did. The part that was scared of what it would mean if you did. If you fit, that means this is real. That means I have something to lose." "You have had something to lose since the night you knocked on my window." "I know. But I could pretend otherwise when you were separate from this. Now you are here. You know everyone. You are part of the fabric. And if something happens to you because of me, I will never forgive myself." "Nothing is going to happen to me. The East Side has a truce. You are safe. I am safe. We are safe. You cannot promise that." "No. But I can promise that I am not going anywhere. That I am choosing this. Every day. And you do not get to protect me by pushing me away." She kissed me then, deep and slow. When she pulled back, she said, "I am going to marry you someday." "You keep saying that?" "Because I keep meaning it." Months passed. The Northside opened a second garage on the East Side, a partnership with a crew that Raina had been negotiating with. It was a peace offering, a way of saying there was room for everyone. Sloane hired more mechanics and started running free classes on bike maintenance for women who could not afford repairs. I watched her build something that mattered, and I fell in love with her all over again. I applied to grad school in the spring, got into 3 programs, chose the one in the city, because leaving was not an option. I had roots here, a life. I started my PhD program in chemical engineering. It was brutal. There were days I came home ready to quit, and Sloane would pull me into her lap and let me rant. She never told me to quit. She just listened and then reminded me that I was the same person who had gotten on a motorcycle for the first time without asking where we were going. And if I could do that, I could do anything. We moved in together after I finished my first year. A loft in the warehouse district with exposed brick and high ceilings. Sloane set up a workbench. I claimed a corner for studying. We built bookshelves together, cursing at IKEA instructions and laughing until we cried. Des came over for dinner once a month. She and Sloane had become unlikely friends. Watching them together was surreal. My best friend and the love of my life, arguing about whether Die Hard counted as a Christmas movie while I made pasta. "You are smiling at the stove," Des said one night. "I am allowed to smile." "You are smiling like a Disney character. It is unsettling." "Leave her alone," Sloane said. "She is cute when she is happy." "She is always cute," Des said. "But this is engaged level cute." I froze. Sloane froze. Des looked between us. "Oh my God, are you engaged?" "We are not engaged," I said quickly. "Yet," Sloane added. "Yet?" Des turned to Sloane. "What does yet mean?" "It means I bought a ring 6 months ago and I am waiting for the right moment." "You bought a ring 6 months ago?" I said. "I bought a ring a year ago. I have been carrying it for 6 months." Sloane pulled a small box from her jacket and set it on the table. "I was going to wait until our anniversary, but apparently I am bad at secrets." Des opened the box, looked at the ring. "If you do not say yes, I am marrying her myself. You are engaged to Marcus. I will break up with him. This ring is gorgeous." Sloane laughed. Des excused herself to the bathroom to cry happy tears. When she was gone, I looked at Sloane. "Were you really going to wait?" "I was. But this feels right. You, me, Des, the people who matter most." She opened the box again. "Harper Finch, will you marry me?" "Yes," I said. "Obviously yes." She slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. Des came back, saw the ring, and burst into tears again. We ordered pizza. Drank champagne Sloane had been hiding for this moment. Made plans. The East Side tried one more territorial push 8 months before the wedding. It did not go well for them. A crew from outside the city had moved in. thinking they could take advantage of the truce and carve out their own space. They were wrong. I got the call at 2 in the morning. Raina's voice, tight and controlled. "We need you at the garage. Sloane is fine, but she is asking for you." I was out of bed and dressed in 90 seconds. Des drove me because my hands were shaking too hard to trust myself behind a wheel. When we got to the garage, there were police cars outside and an ambulance, and what looked like half the Northside standing in the parking lot. Sloane was sitting on the back of the ambulance, arguing with a paramedic. She had a gash across her forehead that was bleeding freely, and her knuckles were split open, and she looked furious. When she saw me, her expression softened. "I am fine," she said. "You are bleeding." "It is just a cut." "Sloane, the other guy looks worse." She let the paramedic clean the cut while I held her non-injured hand and tried not to think about what could have happened. What almost happened. Raina filled me in. The outside crew had tried to rob the East Side garage. Stupid. Territorial. The kind of move that only works if you are willing to escalate to violence. Which they were. Sloane and Tessa had been there doing a late-night repair when it happened. They had called for backup. The North Side had shown up. So had the East Side crew, because the garage was a partnership now, and you did not mess with one side without messing with both. The outside crew had not expected unified resistance. They had scattered. 2 of them were in custody. The rest had fled the city. "Is it over?" I asked Raina. "It is over. The East Side lost some equipment, but no one was seriously hurt. Sloane and Tessa handled it before it could get worse. The cops are calling it an interrupted burglary. We are calling it a reminder that some lessons need to be taught more than once." I looked at Sloane. She was watching me with those gray eyes, waiting for me to say something. To yell at her for being reckless or to tell her I could not do this. Could not handle the danger and the violence and the phone calls at 2 in the morning. Instead, I said, "You need stitches." "I know. And you are going to let the paramedic give them to you without arguing." "I am?" "You are. Because if you argue, I am going to call Raina and have her sit on you while they stitch you up." Raina laughed. "I like this plan." Sloane surrendered. Let the paramedic stitch up her forehead while I held her hand, and Des stood guard and the North Side slowly dispersed into the night. When it was done, we went home. I cleaned her knuckles, made her tea, sat with her on the couch until the adrenaline wore off and she started to shake. "I thought they were going to hurt Tessa," she said quietly. "I thought they were going to hurt her, and it would be my fault because I built this thing and I painted a target on everyone I care about." "It is not your fault. You did not make those men decide to rob a garage. You did not make them escalate. You just defended what is yours. That is not the same thing." "It feels the same." "I know. But it is not." I pulled her closer, let her rest her head on my shoulder. "You built something that matters, Sloane. Something that gives women a place to belong, and tools to protect themselves, and skills to survive. That is worth defending. And you are not doing it alone. You have the North Side. You have the East Side partnership. You have me. We are all in this with you." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I do not deserve you." "You absolutely do. And I am going to keep reminding you of that until you believe it." We sat there until the sun came up, and then I made her go to bed. She slept for 12 hours. When she woke up, the stitches were itchy and her knuckles were sore, and she looked at me like I had hung the moon. "Marry me," she said. "You already asked me that." "I know, but I want to do it again. I want to do it every day until it happens. We have a date. 6 months. Too long. Marry me next month." "Sloane, I mean it. I do not want to wait. I want to marry you now. Tomorrow. As soon as we can get a license and find someone to officiate." I thought about it. About all the reasons to wait. The wedding we had started planning. The guest list. the venue, the dress I had not bought yet. Then I thought about Sloane bleeding in an ambulance at 2 in the morning and how life was short and dangerous and entirely unpredictable. Okay, I said. Okay? Let us get married next month. Let us do it small and fast and perfect. Just us and the people who matter. She kissed me. Hard and grateful, and tasting like the future we were choosing together. We got married 5 weeks later. City Hall. Just Des and the Northside and Sloane's found family. I wore a dress I found at a vintage shop the week before. Sloane wore a suit she had tailored for the occasion. Raina officiated because she had gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. Tessa cried. Maya took photos on a camera she had saved up for. The East Side crew sent flowers with a card that said, "Congratulations on making it official." Even the cops who had responded to the garage incident sent a fruit basket, which was surreal and hilarious, and perfectly on brand for how weird our life had become. We said vows we wrote ourselves. I promised to keep opening the window, to keep showing up, to keep choosing her even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. She promised to keep climbing, to keep building, to keep loving me with the same intensity she brought to everything else in her life. I crashed into you on a Tuesday, I said. And I have been falling ever since. I love you. I choose you. Today and every day. You ruined my life in the best possible way, Sloane said. And I am going to spend the rest of mine making sure you never regret it. I love you. I choose you. Always. We kissed. Everyone cheered. Someone started playing music from a phone and we danced in the courthouse hallway because we could not wait until we got to the reception. Sloane held me like I was the most important thing she had ever touched, and I thought about physics and probability and the exact angle of the sun that morning on Brennan Hill. The reception was at the garage. The Northside had decorated it with string lights and flowers, and there was a cake that Jade had made herself, and a playlist that was equal parts rock and sappy love songs. We danced until our feet hurt, ate cake until we were sick, laughed until we cried. Dees gave a speech about how she had known from the beginning that I was going to do something ridiculous, and she was glad it was this. Rena told a story about the first time Sloane had mentioned me, how she had tried to pretend it was casual, but Rena could tell she was already gone. Tessa raised a glass and said that anyone who could make Sloane smile the way I did was family for life. When it was over, when everyone had left, and it was just us in the garage with the bikes and the string lights still glowing, Sloane pulled me close and said, "This is my favorite day." Better than winning your first race? Better than anything. She kissed my forehead. You are my favorite thing, Harper, my favorite person, my favorite choice. Even though I crashed into you? Especially because you crashed into me. That night we went home to our apartment. She carried me over the threshold even though we had been living there for a year. We fell into bed laughing, and she kissed me until I forgot how to think. And I thought about the physics of the mistake that had started all of this. The angle of the sun, the speed of the bike, the exact moment of impact. I would crash into her 1,000 times. 1,000,000. I would go over those handlebars again and again if it meant ending up here, in this bed, with this woman, building this life. What are you thinking about? Sloane asked. Brennan Hill. The crash? The best mistake I ever made. She smiled, kissed my forehead. I remember the first time I saw you. Lying on the asphalt looking like you had just survived the end of the world. And I thought, this girl is going to be trouble. Was I? The best kind. She pulled me closer. You ruined my life in the best possible way, Harper, and I would not change a single thing. Not even the concussion you got from the east side? Not even that, because it brought me back to your window, and that night was when I knew I was done trying to stay away. We fell asleep like that, tangled together, the window open because old habits die hard and Sloane still liked the night air. Somewhere in the city, motorcycles roared. The Northside was out there, racing and rebuilding and protecting what was theirs. And here, in this small apartment above a bookstore, we were doing the same thing, building a life, choosing each other, showing up. The best mistake I ever made was crashing into Sloane on a Tuesday morning. The best decision I ever made was opening the window when she knocked,